Actually, it's good to see you guys here. Thank you so much for showing up through the rain. That's awesome. Give yourselves a round of applause. That's awesome. Actually, that perfectly matches what I felt was on my heart that I wanted to talk about today. The rain and the weather becomes a challenge for us, and it's always good to push through those things. This whole month we've been talking about authenticity. Because we live in a world that actually doesn't permit a lot of authenticity if you think about it. It's very constraining, and actually more and more in society these days, as of late, I feel personally like there's a larger and larger list of things that I can't think or can't say, and it just feels kind of like I can almost barely say the word God, in a store. And actually that shouldn't have to be that way. We should be empowered to be truly who we are without being obnoxious, hopefully, but being honest about what we do or don't believe, even with each other in this room, right? There's different degrees to which people practice their faith or don't. And it's actually good to create a culture where we're giving each other room to breathe. So this whole month has been talking about that. And I actually wanted to share with you a little personality test to cap off our authenticity topic for this month. I thought this was really interesting. Actually, I'm glad the person who shared it with me is not here, so they won't know I'm just giving it to everybody here. Okay, so either on your phones or on your notepads, I want you to answer a question. I'm going to give you just a minute to do it. What is your favorite color? And after you write that down, because I don't want you to hear the next part, after you write it down, what is your favorite color and why? I see some of you not writing down your answers. So I guess you're just have very strong brains. You're going to remember every word that you mentally write down. Write it down. Just a quick, why do you, just in conversation with yourself, why do you like this favorite color? Okay, next question. Ready? Next question. What is your favorite element out of the 4 elements? Water, air, earth, and fire. What is your favorite element? Write it down on your phone or whatever. And why? Just a quick, I like fire because it cooks my food, That could actually be my answer. That's how much I love food. I like water because it's water from my food, for my rice and my coffee. I like air because it's what I breathe when I drink coffee. So write it down. This is a test. This is a personality test that Keishu and I actually both took. And I will share with you some of our answers. Not all. Okay, so the first one, your favorite color. If you look at the things that you wrote about why you like your favorite color. Animal. Okay. Oh, that's part of it. Yeah, I forgot. Okay, your favorite animal and why. This was actually really hard. I'm an adult. I don't have favorite animals anymore. So when I said I like penguins, and I'm like, wait a second, I don't like penguins anymore. When you're a kid, you decidedly stop, I don't like penguins anymore. Now, this is my favorite. I won't tell you what my actual favorite animal. I actually could find an answer, believe it or not. So I want you to ask yourself, what is your favorite animal? No one's too old for this. And why? Just some descriptions as to why. Okay, so here we go. You ready for the answers for the big reveal? The favorite color is you, how you see yourself or qualities in yourself. So my answer was purple, and I said, and when I was asked why, I said, it's a little bit rock and roll, it's a little bit spiritual. And then when I was told, whoa, that was me, I'm like, dang, that's dead on. And the animal is what you look for or what you look for in a soulmate, in a partner. So I chose bird And I said, they're otherworldly, they're free, they're limitless. And I do see Keishu that way. But I'll tell you what her answer was. Do you want to know what hers was? The favorite color I'll get to later. She said, my dog Edmund, my French bulldog, is my favorite animal. That's very specific. Not just a genre of animal, a specific actual animal. So I guess that qualifies as an answer. And I was there when she was answering the question, right? And she didn't know the test, but I knew it already because I had been told this about a week earlier than her. And she's like, okay, so why did you like your French bulldog, Edmund? And she said, because he's like a clown. And I'm like, trying to act serious. Well, why else? Well, because he's always silly, like a clown, just a clown. Just making me laugh all the time. And I was just like, oh my God. And he makes funny noises. And I'm like, oh my word. How scarily accurate is this? And the last one, your element, is how you see or relate to God. And I thought that was interesting because I picked air. And when I was asked why, I said, it's music. It's thoughts. It's words. And it's amazing how accurate that was for me. Music for me has been a source where I feel like I can get back to a feeling of God and comfort in my life throughout the greatest and the hardest times. So this is just a little personality test. I had to throw this in here while we're on the topic of authenticity because it is good to kind of reflect on who we are. And we're all a little different. And the more we embrace who we are and where we're at, the more we can kind of figure out how we want to get to where we're going. Where we're really at is the starting point to how we're going to get where we want to go. So here at Family Church, we're always saying, we want to build a peaceful world. That's the big goal for us. It's not just living in faith or just feeling God's presence. There's a big goal to this, in that we want to create a peaceful, better world for our kids. That's what it's about. That's what's motivating me to get up way too early on Sunday morning. I'm a musician. I wake up at like 1 p.m. I'm not supposed to be conscious at this hour. What's motivating me time and again is I'm thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about the next generation. And that's the world we can actually affect. So I feel like my peers and a lot of people who stare at their phones way too long in our age group, right? There's a sense of that they can't do anything about the world's problems right now. There's a lot of verbalization, say on social media, a lot of outpouring, a lot of rage. I don't necessarily see a lot of people coming up with a lot of solutions or really doing things. But we have a philosophy here that we can make a humongous difference if we think about how we're going to affect the next generation. That's a new world that doesn't exist yet. How do we want to create it? How do we want to shape it? And we have actually a lot of say in how that happens and how that unfolds. We do, right? We are the creators, in a sense, the co-authors with God of that next generation. It's going to be our children. We have a ton of influence over how that's going to play out. So I wanted to talk about just digging in a little bit on the idea of growth today, because my wife, Keishu, her answer for her favorite color was green. Because, and when asked why, she said, it means growth, it means flourishing, it means prosperous. And I thought, wow, that answer was so much better than mine. I was like, my favorite color is rock and roll. Oh man, I look pretty bad right now. And you may not know this, but her family name is Green. So she is Keishu Green Young, but she's Keishu Green, and she picked the favorite color green. So the fact that this personality test is kind of blowing me away a little bit. But I was thinking about growth, because everything that's alive grows. We're supposed to grow. We grow you can't stop that when you're a kid. You cannot stop growth. You're going to grow up. And so how we grow, and when we want to grow, and we feel like we're not growing, is kind of the topic I wanted to touch on today, just briefly. Because we want our church to grow, we want the world and our community to grow, especially in the sphere of supporting each other, creating God-loving families and good values. We want that to grow. We want that to have a bigger and bigger presence on this planet. And so I was thinking about growth because of Keishu's answer. And I was thinking, the traditional religious kind of approach to growth is fast, pray, read. And there's sort of a tendency now in my age and younger to throw that all out. That's just a system of control. Has anybody heard that? Religion is a system of control. And there's maybe some pockets and truths. And then the other one is religion's responsible for all war. Religion is bad. And okay, some pockets of truth. I mean, people are definitely using the name of God for bad things. But what's interesting to me is the day-to-day life of fasting, reading, and praying gets thrown out like a baby with the bathwater. It gets thrown out. That stuff is bad. That will make you a dumb religious person. Saying God in public, praying, reading, or fasting. But what's amazing is actually science is coming around. I've hinted at this many times before. Science is coming around to prove all of that right. You see all these books that are like positive thinking, intention, secret, law of attraction. That's prayer. That is prayer. You can create sickness out of a negative thought pattern. You can create miracles and positivity out of a positive thought pattern. Prayer is just saying, channel that positive thought pattern, bring God into it, and influence it to happen. That's prayer. Reading, they say people who read physical paper, not digital, have a better ability to empathize with others. It's scientific, studied. And fasting, we all know that fasting is actually kind of good for you, right? It cleans the liver. But I found one more piece that's even more interesting. If you fast for 3 days, water only, it rejuvenates your stem cells better than any medical procedure available now. Some of these medical procedures are actually upwards of $50,000, $50,000, and in some countries, $100,000 to rejuvenate your stem cells. $100,000. And better than that $100,000 procedure is just a 3-day fast of water, which costs you $0 because you don't even get to buy food. Actually saves you money and makes you healthy. That's it, right? So yeah, Moses probably didn't know anything about stem cells. But they talked about fasting, and they felt and they knew the benefit of fasting. So it's a mistake for our generation to throw out all pre-modern knowledge, history, tradition. It's a mistake. People have come across these things for a reason. And the commonality of what makes these things what we kind of call conditions, right? I'm going to do a fasting for a certain number of days, and it's going to be for God, my spiritual growth. The commonality, what makes it a growing experience, from what I can tell, is that it's difficult. It's difficult. So anytime that difficulty happens in your life, like a weight you can't lift yet, or a song you can't play yet, it's challenging in the short term, but it's an opportunity for growth. So sort of today, I wanted to talk about growth through setbacks. Do I still have it up here? Woohoo! grow through setbacks. If there's a setback in your life, you have to know that that's a chance for you to grow. It doesn't matter what that setback is. And I'm telling you from experience, I went through a long and crazy journey to get to this place where I realized that my first failed relationship, my failed attempt at a long-term relationship, led me to a growing process where I was able to better understand and be ready to meet my current and forever wife, Keishu. We talk about this, we joke about it all the time. Had we met each other when we were 16, we would have not liked each other at all. It would have been terrifying. I represented everything that she was probably terrified of. Rogue musician guy, roaming the bars and the touring and living like a, what do they call that? Vagabond. I was going to say something worse, but let's say vagabond. Okay. This is a quote from Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. So sometimes you're growing and you're feeling like you're changing or something's difficult. There may be something you have to do away with to get to that next level of growing in your life spiritually. It's perfectly normal. Like, I don't have a favorite animal anymore, so I thought, right? I don't sit around and think about my favorite color, what I probably did when I was a kid. And spiritually, let's say on a maturity level, I threw tantrums. I was famous for tantrums as a young kid. My mom tells me I had colic for 2 years straight, and she had no sleep. And of course, I have to live with the guilt of that my whole life. And Mother's Day is coming up, and so I got to really do something. But when you get older, it's like if you feel upset, you're going to start taking actions yourself. You don't have to just scream and wait for somebody else to come in. You take action. It's kind of the sign of that new level of growth in adulthood. This is a quote from Unification Thought, one of our teachings. The growth of the spirit self can be achieved only through the fulfillment of one's human portion of responsibility. This fulfillment refers to the continuous practice of love, all the while holding fast to one's faith in God and firmly observing His commandments. And it goes on. In this way, we can overcome numerous trials that may come to us through our own decisions and without any help from others. So one thing that kind of sticks out to me here is overcoming difficulty is kind of a part of the package of actually growing up. Sometimes in the religious community, we hang on to our suffering and our religious hardship as almost like a badge. As living in a state of difficulty is actually earning you to higher levels of yourself, when actually you have to overcome the trials to grow. Growing is about overcoming and change. Overcoming and change. And it has to be through your decision. Because I was thinking about this, when a hardship comes up, you don't necessarily just grow from it automatically. I have a point in my life that Keishu and I talk about all the time. I'll give you a short version of this story. There was a time when I had 2 job offers. One was a really good wedding band up in Boston. And they said, hey, Joe, if you can play every single show this year, book it out and don't cancel on any of them, you're in. We like you. And I would have made really good money. And we would have had to relocate to Boston. And the other thing was, Joe, can you tour the country with this folk rock songwriter artist who's actually super revered in the music industry? Super revered as a legendary writer and songwriter and lyrical kind of mastermind. And with Keishu's support, and to our regret sometimes, but sometimes not, I chose to go on tour and learn from this guy who's the writer. Like, wow, I can really learn something here. There was a major, major financial setback for us for a long time. I put Keishu through a lot of hell for this, but I wanted to grow. I wanted to work on my writing and see what could happen. And of course, I questioned it all the time, but there was one show in Pennsylvania. We're in the green room backstage. We're in a big auditorium, and there's no chairs in our green room, so we go in and we sit on the floor, me and the artist. And in comes the band members of a band called Modest Mouse. And they walk in, and they see us on the floor, and they take a step into the door, and then they go, oh. And they crept out backwards like this, got on their knees, and crawled into the room like this, just to say hello to us. This is a famous band for you rock and roll fans. And so all the members, maybe I say 4 or 5 of the members of Modest Mouse are like, it is so good to meet you guys. And they were like whispering because they thought we were like meditating or something. We didn't have chairs. That's all it was. We were like sitting cross-legged, looking all like super zen up there. And they crawled in, they just wanted to like shake our hands. Not mine so much, but I was there, so I got the cred a little bit. And so then, in moments like that, it made me realize maybe I chose the right thing. I'm hanging out with somebody really respected, who's got something, you know? And what's better is I definitely remember feeling like as long as I'm in the room with this, I'm going to just focus on it. I'm not going to be looking at my phone. I'm not going to be talking to other people. I kind of went off the radar for a number of years there and just focused on learning what I could. And honestly, guys, it's really this experience and this decision in my life that kind of led me to Florida. It's from this that made me want to be a full-time songwriter, and you guys know the story from there. Now I'm in Florida writing songs. It's little decisions like this. I would have definitely been like a jaded wedding band guy up in Boston by now with, you know, a couple more cars than I own now. But little decisions. So because when I meet you guys, and we're doing this now, I feel like it's even more validation of what I chose. I feel like it's even more. I just feel right about it in my gut. Which is why I always thank you guys for being here. It just feels like serious validation. You know, me and Keishu paid a little bit of a price financially. So when you go through difficulty, you have to kind of ask yourself some questions. When something sets you back, financially or emotionally, spiritually, when something sets you off, when something switches you off, that's the one that kind of gets me, the switching off. Like I'm pumped up and revved up, and then sometimes I'm just not motivated. This guy wants to, you know, do a project, and I don't even want to call him back. You know, when you're just not answering the phone or just this, you're just switching off. When something sets you back, sets you off, or switches you off, which I just did there, which is weird, it's a prompt. It's a prompt. A mentor of mine told me this little nugget that I'll never forget. A mentor of mine said, hey, Joe, you know that person that makes you angry? That person you're on the road with who's making you angry, or that person, fill in the blank? She said, okay, now think about that person that's making you really upset. That's your teacher now. A mentor told me that. That's your teacher. I did not want to hear that. I was so cheated on. I was like, ah. That's your teacher, because they're there to teach you something about yourself. What is it about this that's getting to me? What part of this did I help create? What part of myself do I see in that person or that situation? These are questions that you can dig into. It's a little bit of short-term pain, quite honestly, but these are questions you can ask to learn what's the lesson here. Because I firmly believe that anybody in your path is something that God put there. You have to have that trust. And the image that came to my mind was, it's like my mentor that turns on the metronome. Who doesn't know what a metronome is? Let's see. Oh, everybody knows what a metronome is. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick. And as a student, when you're told, okay, that sounded okay, but now can you play it in time? You guys know. Always like, groove better, play it. When you have to play it in time, it's a challenge. It's a difficult task. It's actually, and for you singers, singing in pitch is also, it's another way of saying metronome. It's in pitch or in time. And when my teacher would turn on the metronome, I'd get so uncomfortable. Like, I worked on this all week. Don't turn that thing on and show me that I'm wrong still. That's like God. He's saying, okay, you're a good person. You're really nice. You're really good to your friends and your family. But if you want to grow, and I need you to grow to help this world, now I'm going to put this little thing in here. Let's see how you do. That's kind of how I was envisioning it this morning. So you want to approach any situation that's difficult as a chance to grow. You have to choose that, though. You have to choose, oh, this person just sends me through the roof. I'm going to learn something from this. Because just suffering all by itself is not growth. I'm sure you all have this experience. Two people in your life that have gone through similar problems, just whatever that problem is. Two people who have gone through the same illness or same bad breakup. And those two people will end up so differently. Sometimes one goes down and then up, and then the other will go up and then down. So it really is not the difficulty that makes you, it's how you choose to get through it. And I firmly believe this because I found it to be true in my life. The bigger the setback in any situation, the stronger the step forward. And I want to take a minute to extrapolate this a little bit. We have to admit that there's a setback going on, not only just in your life or in your life of faith or in mine or anybody's, but there's also the family, the tribe. There's also the nation. Right now, there's a lot of tensions going on geopolitically. North Korea is talking about a deal, right? But there's the potential for it to, how are we going to go forward with this? How are we going to go forward? And in our church too. If there's a setback, if there's a change of leadership, if there's this, if there's that, how do you go forward from that setback? If you go forward with the strength of learning to grow, you're stronger. You're stronger as you step forward. So I just want to say, guys, that as we go on to our next topic, next month is going to be fuel. How do you fuel up in your life? Get excited. Become charged up every single day. Not letting the stuff from the past weigh you down further and further as you go on. How do you refuel and recharge? That's what we're going to be talking about next month. But as we close this other chapter about authenticity, I want you to see any setback or anything that's heavy on your heart, see it in a way that God might want you to see it. That it's just a chance to get to the next phase. It's all about learning. It's all about growing because you are alive. You're very alive. You're loving, which means you're growing. And sometimes growing comes with a little tinge of discomfort. So thank you very much, guys.